Hi, everyone. My name is Jana Danielson, and I'm excited to be here with you today, coming at you from my kitchen. I own Lead Pilates and Lead Integrated Health Therapies in Saskatoon. That is my bricks and mortar business. I have also evolved and have grown the business over the past few years to include some new online revenue sources. So I launched the Meta District in 2019, and I launched my first physical product in 2020 for pelvic floor health called the Cooch Ball for women and the Gooch Ball for men. Prior to becoming a wellness entrepreneur, I spent 5 years in running my own human resource consulting business. And then prior to that, worked in an HR consulting business. I have worked at the university for actually 10 years in student services and in the College of Law doing their HR and finance. And I started my career after my university degrees working at Yankee Transfer in their driver services department. So kind of giving you the backwards steps of my career. So today, in this first session together, and we will be doing two, I am really going to focus on how do we work on our business. We know as entrepreneurs that it's easy to work in the business. And I don't know, one of my favorite books when I was starting out was the E-Myth, right? The entrepreneur myth. And maybe as you've been growing your businesses too, you even read that book. And it really tells the story that, you know, the woman who is a great at-home baker, or the gentleman who just has been doing some electrical work for his friends, really decides that it's time to step out and run a business. And there are some people that are really good at their craft. But once you start to grow a business, things change. You don't get to stay in your unique ability. You have to do your marketing, your financing. You have to make sure your taxes are done on time. You have to make sure if you have employees that they're being paid. And there's all these other things. And you know that as starting a business. So as you scale, though, that becomes one of the golden questions is, how do you stay working on the strategy versus just being in the operations all the time. And so we are going to I'm going to share with you how I created my strategy that gives me clarity and help me continue to grow my business. So the first thing I want to share is just the importance of protecting ourselves, and protecting ourselves in a mindset perspective. And I'm sure many of you realize that. But what I have done over the past almost 15 years of being an entrepreneur is I always have these little mantras. And I want to share a little story with you that happened specifically on March the 17th of 2020. And that date might resonate with many of you because that was the date that Premier Scott Moe made the announcement that we were shutting our businesses down. And never in a million years did I think my business would be shut down outside of my own control. I thought if I ever had to close the doors, it would always be on my terms. And so probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I was part of a coaching program called Strategic Coach. And I would go every quarter to Toronto. It was like a 1-day intensive, and it was amazing. I learned so much from my coach, Gary. And one of the things Gary taught me was that when you have clarity, confidence follows. And vice versa, when you have confidence, then clarity follows. So every morning I would get up from that moment until March 17th, 2020, and I would be getting ready for work and then coming down and getting, the boys' lunches ready. And I would be every so often just thinking in my head, clarity creates confidence and confidence creates clarity. And the roulette wheel called entrepreneurship. 1 minute you can feel like you're on the top of the world, and the next minute you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, right? But when I always stayed true to my clarity creates confidence and confidence creates clarity, I could always figure out, what was I missing? Was I missing some clarity? Was there something in a marketing strategy or something in an HR strategy, or did I need to really focus on, cash flow or sales projections in a different way? Where was I not getting the clarity that I needed so that the confidence would follow? Then, as I was driving home the night of March 17th, 2020, from Lead, I was quite emotional. I spent a little bit of time in each of the treatment rooms that we have, in each of the movement facilities we have, in our reception areas, even in our washrooms, and then where we do all of our laundry. And I just had moments. I had moments with those physical spaces, and I just tried to communicate that, this was not going to be a forever thing. We were going to have the amazing beating hearts back in our business. One day. So we were just taking a little hiatus and then we would be back. But on my way home, I realized to myself, how am I going to wake up in the morning and say the words, clarity creates confidence and confidence creates clarity, when I don't really even mean it? And so I phoned my sister, who also owns her own business, crying, saying, I don't know what I'm going to say in the morning, because that's literally the first thing that I say every morning. And she said, you'll figure it out. And I had to get up extra early the next day because we moved a lot of our classes online. And so I needed to be back at the studio just after 6 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up and the sky was blue. And the first thing that popped into my mind was, today I get to make lemonade out of lemons. And that little quote really was the brain hack that I have relied on for almost now the past 2 years. And it also made me realize who doesn't love a good glass of lemonade? Some people like it really sweet. Some people like it really tart. Some people might just take out of the frozen container without mixing it with water. And what could I do, or how could I show up, or how could I evolve the business so that I was now serving lots of different kinds of lemonade? And so that's what I did. The Meta District was launched in September of 2019, so 6 months before the pandemic hit. The Meta District is my online movement and education platform. So I sell courses on movement. I sell a 30-session challenge for, regular bodies to get into a great routine with their movement. I sell courses for workplaces around movement and workplace wellness. I've got a great course that came out of our research that we did with the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada, called Movement for MS, which really is all about movement for any sort of neurological condition. And what it made me realize was that, as we scale and as we try and get clarity on a strategy, sometimes it means just taking what we know and packaging it in a little bit of a different way to create something brand new, that we don't have to step out of our mastery, that we can stay in what we know, where we do have clarity and we do have confidence, and let the outside world be noisy, acknowledge the noise, but understand that we don't have to live in the noise. Okay. So there are some questions that we are going to be, covering off today. And when you think about strategy, what I've done in my business is, we haven't spent a lot of time, and let me just give you a little bit of a scope. So I have 50 clinicians, administrators, and instructors that are on my team at Lead. Okay. So twice a year, we come together in the spring and the fall, and I do what I call my State of the Union address. And it really, I take a snapshot of where we have been over the past 6 months. And I do include some numbers around that. I share our sales and, have we grown? Have we stayed flat? Have we decreased? And what are the strategies around that? We use it as a bit of team building as well. But we always come back to revisiting our why. So we decided early on, or maybe I decided as the entrepreneur, that I didn't want to have a big flamboyant mission and vision. I wanted something simple that anybody on my team or any of our clients could easily verbalize. Because as you know, as a solopreneur, and then as you grow, you're taking your own beliefs and values in how you're showing up in your business, and you're asking others to come on board and join you in your vision. But then, and that's an energetic exchange, right? So you're bringing someone on to join your team. That simply is an energetic exchange. They're exchanging their time they're giving to you for money. It's different for us as entrepreneurs. So sometimes it's not time for money. But then in the opposite way, you want to be able to create this team that if you weren't physically at your location, or let's say you had to just, maybe your family was taking priority. And that's happened in my family, where our middle son was quite ill and we had to actually take him to the Mayo Clinic. And I was so happy that I had the strategy that I did with my business, because in that 6 weeks that I was literally absent from my business, none of our customers and clients knew. Our patients didn't know. Everybody just kept working, and it was business as usual. And so our why is to educate, inspire, and move the beating hearts that choose to walk through our doors or show up online to become better versions of themselves. And that's what it is. And everybody on my team can recite that. And we had to change that, or join us online. That's the newest part to it. But every time we do these spring and fall State of the Unions, we come back to that and we talk about what the lead experience is like, because the lead experience is all three of those. It's educate, inspire, and move. And so it does not matter if it is someone on my administrative team picking up the phone to book a treatment, or an instructor in a private session with a client, or one of my naturopathic doctors that is working through someone's health and wellness. They all know that in the role they are serving, the lead experience is, what have I done to educate this person? Have I created an inspired action in them? And how have I moved them? And sometimes it means physical movement, and sometimes it might just mean emotionally or spiritually moving them to become a better version of themselves, or to let go of that diagnosis they may have got 10 years ago. And that's how they still introduce themselves with their knee pain or their back pain, because we see it all the time in my business. All right. So that's the first thing that I use as strategy, because we didn't always have 50 people. All right. I started with 3 instructors and 2 part-time administrators. And so as we have literally scaled the team, that is what is the kind of, it's like the keystone in the Roman arch. If you pull the keystone out, the arch falls. And I need to know that when I'm not there, because I'm not always in my business, that when people are walking through our doors, or joining us online, or calling us on the phone, or sending us an email, that the strategy around that experience, the lead experience, is authentic and true, and everybody knows what that's like. Because on the off chance that someone does not have a lead experience, and I hear about it, and of course I do, right? Social media, or people know us good enough that they pick up the phone or they send me an email, I can then go specifically back to that person or group of people, and we can have a really honest conversation around that experience, right? So I don't have to go into a staff meeting and do a blanket message that is not going to land for the people that need it to land, and those people that are like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, what are you even talking about, right? So that way, as a leader, I can be really specific with any of that staff follow-up that I have to do. All right. So where is your business going? Every year I spend time here, actually in my kitchen. So I take off that picture off the wall that my boys made in preschool. And I take those big sticky flip chart Post-it notes. And I cover this wall in Post-it notes. And I map out lead Pilates, lead integrated health therapies, the Meta District, and then the Gooch and Cooch Ball, which I alluded to before, but didn't. So let me tell you, let me just like loop back a second. So in 2018, when I was teaching and coaching women in movement and fitness and just general wellness, what I started to realize was really quickly, even years before that, I was just getting frustrated in 2018, that when it came to our pelvic floor, like women's health, pelvic floor incontinence, pelvic floor pain, pain during intercourse, all of these amazing clients of mine who were like open to learning were like, curtain, like, right, the curtain falls. I'm not talking about this. I'm not acknowledging this. And it would never fail that I would get emails after, I'm dealing with this, I'm coughing, or, my kids are 12, 14, and 10, and I can't run anymore because I am peeing my pants. Or I cringe every time my husband comes near me because of the pain I experience, the pelvic floor pain during intercourse. So I started hearing it enough. And I also did some training about 7 or 8 years ago with a urogynecologist from Reno, Nevada, named Dr. Bruce Crawford, that was doing research on movement and pelvic floor dysfunction. And what he found in his research was in 90% of the cases in the women that he used in his study, these pelvic floor issues were movement issues. They were fitness issues. They were not medical issues. And so what if you could reframe the pelvic floor women's health problem as fitness or movement, and then inspire women to take accountability and do something about it, right? So I was like, yes, Dr. Crawford, all of that. But what could I do? Like, what could I create as a problem to this solution? And I created the Cooch and Gooch Ball. So yes, the names are a little edgy, and that is on purpose. Have I had some haters on social media? Yeah, for sure. But you know what? That's what I wanted. I wanted a little bit of shock value for people to be like, what is this called? And what do you do with it? Right. And that's exactly what happens. So it is it's got a design patent and a utility patent. It's a fitness tool. It's non-invasive. You sit on it for 3 minutes. I created an e-course to go along with it. And now men and women from all over the world are improving their pelvic floor health, improving their quality of life. I've got amazing stories from men with erectile dysfunction who have said, you've given my life back. My relationship with my wife is stronger than ever. And thank you, right? Because we often think that we need medical intervention at that point. In some cases you do. But when I get those big flip chart papers on my wall, I have one for lead Pilates, one for lead integrated health therapies, one for the Meta District, and one for the Cooch and Gooch Ball. And what I do is I actually get as close to the numbers as I can, because I try and do this kind of early December. So it's not, my year end is December 31st. So I don't have a full year of operations, but I start to look and see, where was the growth? How are my revenues from 2020 compared to 2021, and 2021, or in 2020 to 2021? And I use that as my baseline, because at the end of the day, we know that we are not for profits, or maybe some of us are, but most of us as entrepreneurs will be looking to grow that bottom line. So one day we can position our businesses to be handed over, to be sold, whatever path you might be on. And I start there. And then what I do throughout the year is I collect client comments that I might get in an email or that I might see on social media. And I don't collect all of them, but the ones that really catch my eye, I just put them in my, in a Google Doc, and I just collect them throughout the year. So then what I do is, once I look at how we've been doing from a business growth perspective, or are we stale, or have we declined, I then go to those, I guess they're like testimonials, and I read about the impact that my businesses have made on people's lives. And most of these people I've never met before. Okay. Lots of them I have, but some I haven't. So then what I do is I sit with that information for a little bit and I visualize these clients' lives and the quality of life they're leading and what they're maybe doing now that they didn't, or the trips they were able to take, or how they've taken what they've learned and incorporated into their family or into their business or into their community. And I just visualize those beating hearts. Because at the end of the day, for me, I feel as a heart-centered entrepreneur, it's the impact. And when you create the impact, the outcome will be financial success. Okay, it just is, right? So if you can grow those testimonials exponentially, your bottom line will follow. And yes, maybe you are, paying extra on your bank loan, or maybe COVID, like for me, COVID has really pulled the rug out from under me. And I've had to be really creative with how I fill the blanks and the revenue that went away. So from here, once I have those numbers and once I've sat and kind of almost meditated over those testimonials, then I feel like my creative juices, I'm setting myself up to be successful. And I go through each of those flip chart papers and I just start writing. Like there's no judgment at that point. Maybe it's someone that I recently met. Maybe we shared a virtual stage at a summit. Sorry, you guys, I'm going in and out here because the sun is turning. And I'm like, oh, I need to connect with that person about a collaboration. Or I've had this idea for a new class, or I really want to grow, this aspect of the clinic. How would I do that? Do I know of someone that I could bring onto the team? And so that's what I do. I just go through those 4 flip chart papers and just start writing. And I end up, I don't necessarily go one by one. Sometimes there will be an idea that I can put on more than one sheet of paper. And we know how important it is as entrepreneurs to be efficient and effective with our time. So if I don't have to recreate the wheel, if I can take something I learned in one aspect of the business, put it into another one and move that forward, then I'm obviously going to do that. But that's basically how I start every year. That's how I start with my strategy. And every once in a while, like I'll obviously don't leave the flip charts up, but I'll take them out and I'll look at them again and I'll be like, oh yeah, right. So when I have the map basically, then I start to play around with my fruit scented markers. And I start to decide, what's the low hanging fruit here? What's something that within the next 30 days I can do that is going to be easy, impactful, start generating revenue, start making, some extra impact. And that's what I start to do. So I identify, what's the next 30 days off of those charts. And then I look at, what is in the next quarter. So 90 days, that's what I do for mine. And then within the next year. So, you could slice and dice this however you want to. For me, 3 time frames are enough. So 30 days, in the next quarter, so 90 days, and then in 365 days. And then I just have this color-coded chart. And then I go to my calendar, my Google Calendar, and I count out the 30 days, the 90 days, and the 365 days. And then what I do is, like a week before each of those deadlines, I remind myself to go back and look. And I just do a little check-in, because sometimes those, the 30 days go so well that you guys, I'm just going to shift here. Give me a second, because I feel like this is just, okay, there, you get a bird's eye view of my kitchen now. So that's what I do. And what I find is sometimes I'll have really great success with those low hanging fruit. And that will keep me kind of busy enough for that quarter So I don't stress about not getting to, I don't stress about not getting to every item on my list. That is not a exhaustive list. It's also not a requirement for me to check the box on each thing. It just basically gives me my paradigm, my framework that I am going to work within. And oftentimes it changes a lot. And it's interesting. It's almost becomes like a photo album to go back and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I thought it would work out this way. And that wasn't like nearly the case. So it's fun to take a trip down memory lane every once in a while. It also helps you identify where your business is going. Okay. So one of the things, I'm going to use this as an example. So Pilates literally changed my life. It did. As in my 20s, I had major debilitating undiagnosed pain. I went through many months of doctors and specialists and lots of tests and being poked and prodded. And there was never a diagnosis. And I ended up on a list of 10 different medications. And I was just a new commerce grad, newly engaged. And I thought, how will I marry this man of my dreams? Does he want someone that's broken like me? On the outside, I looked healthy. And literally Pilates did change my life. And that was part of the impetus for my switch from business consulting over to wellness entrepreneurship. And so how you know where your business is going, I often come at it from, where is my business not going? Okay, if the question, where is your business going, feels just too overwhelming, where is my business not going? And now let me give you an example. So there have been many times over I started teaching out of my basement in 2008, and then we moved into our first location on Taylor Street in 2010. So I've been, growing this business for 13 years. And there have been many times in that 13 years when, for example, I have people approach me and say, I am a yoga instructor. I've got a following of this many people. I'm looking for a studio to teach my classes. Would you bring me on board? Could I become a part of your team? And so this is an example of knowing what you are not. I have always known, and I had my own yoga practice for many years before I found Pilates. But when I found Pilates, kind of like when I found my wedding dress, I was like, yep, this is it. Don't need to try another one. And I think it was like the second one I tried on. It's kind of like that there are amazing yoga studios in this city. I know where my lane is. I know where my mastery is. I can speak about Pilates with 1,000,000% confidence. And I want to continue to use that as a differentiating factor. So that's an example of knowing who you are often means knowing who you are not. And sometimes that can be a challenge to stick to your value system like that. Because let me tell you, there have been many times when you would get these offers and it's like a built-in source of revenue, right? So it'd be really easy to be like, yes, come on board, right? But no. And I'm trying not to say but as much. I'm trying to say and those moments help to give me clarity on what direction that I did want to go in with my business. So that's my mapping process. It has served me well. I can say that sometimes it's done in the afternoon with a glass of wine, and it helps me be a little bit extra creative. Sometimes I come back to it in a second day because there's too much white space on those papers. And it's just, I just get to be with me. And then I can take certain things off of those pages. And remember I told you about those spring and fall State of the Union addresses? I can then bring specific parts of those to my team. And I can include them in a conversation. and I can engage them, and we can maybe create some multifunctional teams to work on certain projects that give people a chance to work outside of their regular roles at Lead. So there's lots of ways that you can capitalize on this, depending on how you want to wrap it up and the kind of bow that you want to put on it. All right. And so the second question that I've been asked to touch on is, how do I create value? And really, I've started talking, I feel like I've touched on these three questions. And then how are you going to get there? I feel like I've touched on these three questions throughout my examples, but creating value starts with your why, 1,000,000%. If you don't know with confidence why you are existing for the people who are taking in your product or your service, it's going to be really hard to add value. And as you look to grow your value, it's going to be really hit and miss because it's hard. How do you plug into that? Now, let me give you another example of adding value. So we have a kind of a hybrid model at Lead. We have a membership model, and then we've got packages, and then we've got what's called the teaser pack, so people can come and just almost like a punch card, right? And so our members are the ones that obviously are the most committed. They have their clinic team, they have their studio team, their health and wellness is a priority for them. They join us online, they join us in studio. Gosh, we've got people literally from all over the world now who are a part of the Lead community because they join us online every day for their classes. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to thank them for their consistency with their own physical, mental, and spiritual health through these last 18 months. And if you are an entrepreneur who is using a membership model, if you have not read The Membership Economy by, okay, it's not Meredith Baxter Burney because that's the mom on Family Ties. It's Robbie Baxter. Okay, that is the name of the author. It's a must read. If you have a membership business model, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And so what she says in her book is that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get stuck on the discount those membership services because they're the ones that usually are paying the most per month. They're accessing a lot of service from you for that. So they are getting value for it. But you, or instead, I just said I'm not going to say but, and you should be acknowledging them in a different way, make them feel special in a different way. And how we've decided to do it at Lead is add value. So this fall, I launched a program called The Grove. And I chose the name The Grove because when I love naming things like in nature. A grove of trees is a bunch of different varieties of trees that are growing in close proximity to each other, very harmonious to each other. But the underbrush of this area is clear. You can see through these trees, under these trees, okay? And that's what makes a grove. And I was like, I really like that. So I named this group coaching program The Grove. And once a month, you cannot buy your way into this group coaching program as much as you want. You have to be a member. And once a month, we get on Zoom, and I'm taking this special group of clients through a really neat, deeper dive into their wellness. And they get to meet each other in a different way, and they get time with me, because that's the one thing. As I've scaled my business, I am not in the business as much. So this gives them monthly connection with me, which I think is really important. And of course, we are growing their own body health and wellness IQ expertise. So it really is a win-win-win. The how are you going to get there? Again, that for me, it starts with my flip charts, right? I pick what I'm going to be incorporating or working on, and then I work through a plan. Who do I need on board to make this happen? what are the roles that, when, creating the process, who has to be involved when, what are the outcomes, having that team meeting where everybody can understand what their roles are. Sometimes I'm the person that does it all. However, I should say that I still keep my team in the know. We've got probably about every 7 to 10 days, I send out what I call an in the loop email. And I just bring everybody on the same page, let them know what's going on. If there's any events, any of my low hanging fruit or my 90-day or 365-day projects, I might have a call for action. If anyone wants to be a part of this, we're going to meet here. So that's how I get there. And I'll tell you this as we wrap, because we are at time, is that as I have become more experienced as an entrepreneur, I've been able to discern in a different way when I'm trying something. And even though I may have invested time and money and this was the outcome, if I start to feel like I'm spinning my wheels, or if decisions toward the outcome start to be like, if I'm procrastinating or I just am indecisive, I know enough about myself as a person to know that I'm getting a tap on the shoulder and I have to let my ego go, to not be like, no, I said I wasn't going to do this and now I'm going to do it. I've let that go. I used to be that person. So I believe that does come with experience, where you can be like, okay, that's what I thought. This is how I was going to get there. That didn't happen. Is there a rework here? Not everything you throw at the wall is going to stick. If there's a rework, let's go. If there is no rework and you're just like, I have fallen out of love with this project, why am I doing it? Even if you've told the world about it, oh well. Thank you all for your interest in this new project that I've been working on. I just wanted to give you a little update that I've decided to go in a different direction. It wasn't serving me or the business in the way that I had anticipated. I'm so excited for what is coming up next. And as soon as I get more clarity on that, I will let you know. That could be a simple message to your team, right? That's like, when is that launching? When is that launching? So, I could sit here for a long time and chat about just creating the strategy map and how to create inspired action out of it. How do you know, how do you know you're getting some traction? The other thing I can say is just trust your connection, trust your gut as an entrepreneur. You're not here by mistake. You're in this course on purpose, for a purpose. I hope there was one or two small little nuggets that you have pulled out of our time together. I'm looking forward to the live Q&A sessions with you. And don't forget, every single day you get to make lemonade out of lemons. Have a great rest of your day.